Hello everyone, welcome to the exciting webinar for ESY administrators belonging to Northern Lights Special Education Co-op. This is Heidi Halker coming at you from the co-op talking about ESY and what administrators in each district need to know. So on your screen you should see a flyer that talks about what administrators need to know for ESY. It's titled ESY Overview/Training for ESY Administrators. And before I proceed any further, there's a little note here that I just want to remind ESY administrators that ESY is for students age 3 to 21. Students that are age birth to 2 years, 11 months fall under a different category of special education, and so what you'll hear today does not apply to those students. That's a separate category that you can get information on another time. So today's presentation just speaks to the ESY, which I guess I should note stands for Extended School Year. I should also note that this is for special education students on IEPs. IEP students need to qualify for ESY, and case managers have been informed and received training on that. So you as an administrator, though, may be asked to coordinate ESY summer programming, and here are some tools that will help you do that. First of all, along with this webinar, materials from a folder will be shared with you, and you can see here there's a link to that folder. Whoops, I kind of overclicked. And when you get into that folder, there are some subfolders. I've got one for some budget forms. This one is ESY forms for summer staff, and then some other miscellaneous ESY administration forms. And then down here is a copy of the flyer that I'm going through with you right now. So going back to that, whoops, I clicked on the wrong thing. If I scroll down, and of course, there we go. Let me just talk with you about the general process. As I mentioned, case managers have received training on extended school year and ESY paperwork. So a case manager would complete ESY paperwork in SPED forms, and then they need to alert their co-op coordinator of a student's qualifying for ESY, and they need to give you a copy of the ESY worksheet, and I'll show you an example of that in a second and what you'll need to know about that. What we will do on our end, each coordinator will make sure that a student has properly been identified as needing ESY services, and if there's any issues with that, we would, pardon me, help facilitate working with that case manager. And then, like I said earlier, too, information was provided to staff at Communication Committee and through other methods about how to complete ESY paperwork. And there are some tutorials on our website that they've been given information on. But for you as an administrator, some things that you should know that a case manager needs to prepare for. There's a little document that we created called To-Dos for case managers. That's in the Google folder, and I'll take us there now. So here are the forms that case managers can take a peek at, and then actually summer staff working with kids will need to know about some of these as well. But first, let me just go over a case manager's to-do list, so just so you have an understanding of what they need to complete. You can see where my cursor's at here. Case manager completes the ESY worksheet like I mentioned. They should alert us here at the co-op and give you a copy. They need to complete a blue data form, which is on our website, and I won't take you to that, but here's a live link to that in case anybody's having trouble finding it. There are also in that folder some examples of how to collect attendance when kids are going to ESY, and I'm going to mention more about this, but I'll just quickly show you one of the examples that we have. This is not a mandatory form. This is just something that might be useful for your district to collect attendance information when kids are attending services in the summer. If your district likes and uses a different form, that's just fine, but we have that here in case you would like to use our format. And, oops, I'm sorry, let me go back to that to-do list and see if there was anything else I wanted to highlight. And this again is for case managers. Case managers, and actually I should put on here for the staff that are working with the kids in the summertime. They will need to either complete the office the attendance form that I just showed you an example of, or the Mars attendance sheet for students age 3 to 5, and here's a link for that as well. Typically, those providers are aware of this Mars attendance form. So if you have any questions about that, my contact information will be shared at the end of this webinar, so we can help clarify any questions with that. Summer staff should also complete a progress report, oversee or conduct any MA billing. This shouldn't be anything new to your summer staff. District mileage sheets and time sheets per your district requirements should be completed and turned into you or a business manager in your district. And of course, if you're hiring somebody brand new, you would need to go through those procedures with W-4s and I-9s and whatever else your district would require. And then please ask that summer staff complete a progress report at the end of ESY. And I may repeat some of this information today as we go through the rest of this presentation. So let me get back to our overview, though. That was at the listed to-dos for case managers, and you can sure share that sheet, and that'll be available on our website for everyone to see as well. And that information will be shared at the end of this on where to find it. So let me just mention back to teachers will turn in these ESY worksheets to you. And when you look at those ESY worksheets, that will help you determine what the summer program is going to look like. And let me just mention right as we're at this spot that extended school year programming doesn't necessarily always mean a special education classroom type program. It could be that, or it could be a situation where somebody goes to, does a home visit or completes packets that are sent home, and there's some check-ins. Some other things like that. So just keep that in mind, that programming doesn't always necessarily mean that kids are attending a class. Whoops, I keep clicking to the wrong thing here. Sorry, everybody. If you are not gleaning from information that's been turned into you from those ESY worksheets, you might need to have a conversation with the case manager about what it is that they're trying to explain in the worksheet. And here, let me right now, while we're talking about that, show you an example. So this is what the worksheet will look like. It won't be highlighted. This was a tutorial that I created for case managers. But what you would be concerned about as an ESY administrator would be down at the bottom. You would want to take a look at this section about how much time a child was going to be receiving from a special education teacher or related service provider. But then down here, we ask case managers to give a description about the ESY program. And oh yeah, good, it's letting me highlight what I'm talking about here. So they should tell you if this is a classroom situation, if this is just going to be consultation, if there's going to be some home programming or home visiting. This is where they'll talk about the need for a paraprofessional also. They may stick it up in the list of services up here, but we should always double check down here to see if they've talked about the need for a paraprofessional. Some other things that you want to think about for some of our kids might be assistive technology. If somebody is using a communication device or deaf, hard of hearing and needs their FM system, that would be important for you to know about so that those devices are ready and available at the time of ESY or summer services starting. And of course, if somebody has physical impairments or needs, we would want to know if they need a Hoyer lift or changing tables or other adaptive equipment. And then, of course, what kind of transportation we might be talking about, particularly if you would need a vehicle with a lift. And then down here, you can just see some examples about how a teacher might write that up. So if it isn't clear in that example of what they're looking at programming, then you might need to have a conversation with that case manager. So you've received all your ESY worksheets from your case managers. The co-op has reviewed all those to make sure all those kids qualify. So now you're getting ready to look at your programming. You've looked at those worksheets and you've determined how much special ed teacher time you need. You've determined if you need paraprofessional time and maybe some related service providers such as speech or deaf, hard of hearing or something like that. So then you, if you are required by your district, which many folks are, you would then put together a budget for your superintendent or school board. And they may already have a format for you to use in doing that, but if not, here's an example that is also in the Google folder. This includes a spot for if you as a coordinator or somebody else is being hired, that expense can be included on this budget. And then here's an example where there was a program three kids were identified as needing ESY, 8 hours went to one student, 10 to another, and then 10 to another. So for example, maybe that administrator received 3 ESY worksheets. Here's the area that I'm talking about, for a total of 28 hours. And so then the daily rate, I should just clarify, this was taken from a contract. This may not be your district's hourly rate. So this is just an example of how you could pull that information together to give to your superintendent and or board. And again, these teachers that I've put here in this example, here we have PI, SMI, DCD, that might not be the licensure area or disability area of the teacher that you are looking for. So this, again, is just an example. And down below, just to help us remember, if we need to think about PT, OT, nurses, speech, vision, deaf, hard of hearing, paraprofessionals, some districts choose to budget for mileage and some supplies. If there's any outside services, you would probably be talking with a special education coordinator or the director about anything related to that. So, but there's a line available in case that's a need. And then just a reminder too that this does not include transportation, and you could certainly include transportation with your budget as well. So let me get back to our overview. So you've put together a budget and given that to your superintendent. Some districts have a policy where they like to have boards approve things. However, we know that ESY services are required by law, so hopefully they will go ahead and approve those. And then you can start going through your hiring procedures. This is also district specific, and I don't have any examples. But often districts will post, after they've gone through and calculated out the number of hours and developed their budget, they will then put out some postings for hiring ESY staff. If you need help with that or have questions, certainly we can provide some assistance in that area as well. So another important piece of information you should know is about variances. If you have a student with a disability area of, let's say, EBD, and the person you've hired to work for the summer has just an SLD license, they should really have a variance in the area of EBD. And our office will help take care of getting that variance. And here's just a little memo about how you can help determine what licenses you need. And again, we would be available to help with any questions with that. And if you determine that you do need a variance, please send the following information to Mary Borden prior to the start of ESY, because any variances we need would need to be in place prior to the start of ESY. That's pretty rare, but every once in a while we need to remember that. If we don't have the properly licensed teacher, then we may risk not being able to have the reimbursement take place that we would want to have take place. Going on then, another bit of information for you is if you have students that are non-residents of your district, which many of us do, we are supposed to send a notice of intent to provide ESY services to the resident district. And you can certainly use your own form, but if you would like, you can use ours. And there's a link to that form and what that form needs to include. And it's pretty generic, and maybe you've even seen these come across your desk from other districts. So that's all that looks like. And it's just helpful with tuition billing if that resident district gets a copy of that. Some other things to think about are developing a method to communicate with parents about summer programming. And as I mentioned, that collection of attendance in the Google folder that will be shared with this, with you. I know, let me just scroll back up to my link for the attendance. And you know what, I will add another link to this form because I'm going to have to go to my to-do list to show that to you guys. Oh, here they are. This one is a PDF, so it's not something that one could fill out online. This one is in a Sheets document, and so a staff person could fill that out online. And we would like to ask that you share that both with your business managers and with Lynn Pikinen here at the co-op. We're finding that that's helpful for calculating out daily membership, especially for our students age 3 to 5, and then we get some extra reimbursement for that. So it's important that we keep track of that attendance for that age group in particular. It's also helpful for some of the other age groups where we're documenting if kids did indeed attend ESY and so forth. So we would like to ask that they turn a copy into you or your business manager, as I said, or excuse me, and that they provide a copy to Lynn Pikinen at our co-op. And there will be a folder in our ESY folder for people to put that in if that would be convenient for you, or you can send them to Lynn on your own. And in fact, maybe I will just add in here as we're sharing this with you to please send this to Lynn Pikinen at the co-op. So I believe I spelled her name wrong. I will be correcting that shortly, but that concludes my ESY training for administrators. If you have questions, down here at the bottom is my contact information. Again, I'm a special education coordinator here at the co-op, and my contact number is down here at 879-1283, extension 6012, or you can certainly email me at hhalker, which is HHALKER, at nlsec.k12.mn.us. All of this information will be posted in the webinar section on our website, which maybe I will just take a moment to flip over to. And I don't know if I have it bookmarked, so I'm using somebody else's computer. So we'll just do it like we're starting from scratch. And you can see I'm going to the website there. Pardon me. And we have all kinds of staff resources, but you can see we've got, where are our webinars? And now, Shannon, I'm messing up and might need to change my whole webinar based on my screw up here at the end.
No, you've got it. So go to downloadable resources right up towards the top.
Okay. All right. Oh, and there's one on the other side here. Let's do this one.
Either one, yep. And then go to videos.
Thank you.
And there. Webinars and webinar documents. We'll put both of them in there.
Excellent. Thank you for chiming in at the last minute and saving this presentation.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.